Am I doing the best I can with what I have to become the best I am capable of becoming? And I ask myself that every night before I go to bed. Did I do the best I could today with what I had to become the best I am capable of becoming? And this is what it means. Am I doing the best I can physically, mentally, emotionally? Okay, with what I have. And what do we have? We have our skills, we have our resources, we have our relationships, we have our time, and we have our circumstances. Okay, we all have our circumstances to become the best I'm capable of becoming. And that's the beauty of this. We have no idea what our potential is. We'll never really realize our potential. But if you can focus on getting 1% better every single day, then you're going to be working towards that unlimited potential. It's unbelievable. And here's what they all did. And it's the same thing that they've always done: pause, breathe, and reflect. And I want you to think about that, because what we have a tendency to do when adversity hits is like, oh crap, what do I need to do? Everyone's talking about the pivot, right? Everyone's talking about the pivot. How about we get on balance before we pivot? Really reflect into what it means in your life for you, what it means for your family, what it means for friends, your inner circle, the people in your orbit, and what it means for your team at work. Okay. And don't rush into things, and make sure that they take time to breathe. McKeel Haggerty, unbelievable. I mean, just an incredible leader. And I said, McKeel, I mean, how do you, with all these people that you have under your employ, how did you do it? He goes, first thing I did, the very first day, I got them all on video, and I had them take a deep breath. That's it. And I said, that's all we got for the day. I'll see you tomorrow. We're going to take 2 deep breaths together. Then we're going to go from there. And then they locked into 3 days of meetings, worked out worst case scenario. And that's another presentation for another time. That is a lot of fun to talk about. Be human. What does be human mean? It means have grace with yourself. Okay. Allow yourself to feel the emotions. Okay. Don't get stuck in them, but feel them, acknowledge them, label them, and then move on. And then the piece that I want to dive into a little bit here is the be vulnerable piece. Because when people hear be vulnerable, they have a tendency to think that's like weak, okay, that it's soft, and that it makes you powerless. It makes you more powerful. And here's what you do when you make yourself vulnerable. I'm going to move on after this one, okay, when we talk about putting your oxygen mask on first. When you make yourself vulnerable, the person that you're talking to, you show them that you show them that you respect them as a person. You show them you respect their skills and their experiences, and you show them you trust them because you're opening up to them. But here's what this does as a leader, from a leadership standpoint. Once they see that you trust them to open up to them, they're going to in return open up to you on a deeper level, which as a leader, that's going to give you access to all the information you need to put them in a greater position to be successful, especially during times of adversity, because you're really going to know what makes them tick, and you're going to be able to connect their mind and their heart. And that's huge. Adversity is not something that happens to us. It is something that happens for us. Now, I want you to take a second and really think about that, because that's a very significant shift in words. Adversity is not something that happens to us. It is something that happens for us. Think about something in your life, a circumstance, something that's got you all fired up, like, how could this happen to me? All right. And here's an exercise I do with my very high level executive clients. I do teams that I'll go and talk to, college teams, on a piece of paper at the top. And I will send you this exercise. At the top of a piece of paper, write down something right now that you feel is a really challenging time, a big bit of adversity. It could be a bill you have to pay. It could be the fact that you're still unemployed. It could be the fact that you got some derelict that you're trying to lead that's not buying in. Whatever it is, all right? Write it there. And then after you do that, you take some time and you write down the way it makes you feel, all right? Now, on the left side of your piece of paper, write for me. On the right side, write to me. Then take the time. Don't be in a hurry. Take the time to write down all the possibilities. If you take that mindset that this piece of adversity that's made me feel like this is happening for me, not to me. And just to cement how powerful the for me side is, go ahead and write down what you would do if you felt like and you accepted the fact it was happening to you. I'm going to share a couple stories here with you in a second about people. And this is like I said, Porter is he's a brother. Okay. I don't even consider him a friend. He is a brother. We've been through We've been through so much together. We played in the NCAA tournament together. We got fired at A&M together, weddings, I mean, everything, right? Highs and lows. In the early 2000s, I'm sitting at my desk and I get a phone call from Phil Escala, the head coach at Lake Forest. I don't think he was at Lake Forest at the time. And Phil and Porter grew up together. Now he's coaching. Then he goes, "Hey, man, have you talked to Porter?" I go, "I talked to him a couple of days ago." "Why?" And he goes, "He just got fired." I mean, he didn't get fired. I go, "They just beat Creighton 2 weeks ago." I go, "They got upset in the tournament." He was a head coach at Illinois State. He was on the rise, a young up and coming coach. Okay. What the world didn't know, he had his third AD in 4 years, blindsided him, fired him. All right. Now, Porter could have gone in the tank. He could have absolutely gone in the tank, and he had every right to go in the tank. He had a couple small Division I job offers, head jobs that he could have taken. But Rick Majerus came calling, okay? And he had first met Rick years ago when he was coaching at Texas A&M and did a film exchange with Rick in Hawaii during one of the tournaments. And Rick called him and offered him his assistant job. And he says, "If you really want to take your career next, come work for me. I will let you run the show. I will let you do the recruiting. I'll let you do the scouting. I'll let you do the team prep. We're just going to run things my way. That's it." And Porter wrestled with it. I mean, he toyed with the idea. You know, one of the jobs he had was close back to home. And now here's a guy, when we got fired at A&M, he was having a hard time getting the next gig, okay? And he decided to go work for Rick Majerus. To this day, and he said it in the Final Four, to this day, it was the single greatest thing that ever happened to him was getting fired at Illinois State. But he'll tell you in the same breath, the hardest thing he ever did do was go home and tell his kids that we're no longer Redbirds. Okay. So what seemed like the biggest piece of adversity, you know, he thought it was the most powerful thing that could have happened to him. And we talked this night, we talked leading up to this. He'll always remember that. He will always remember, no matter what happens to him, no matter what happens to Loyola, no matter what happens to his player, there's something positive that's going to come out of it as long as you approach it the right way. Okay. And I was just talking about this, right? Happens for us. You reframe the circumstance. You see opportunity instead of obstacles. You control your response and actions as opposed to reacting to it. So you're more of a proactive mindset and you have the growth mindset. And the bottom line is you increase your positivity and emotional energy, which is something that's so important. And I meant to mention at the beginning when I talk about pause, breathe, and reflect. You've got to really, during adverse times, you've got to think every single morning in your morning routine, how do I want to show up today? How do I want to be for my people? Okay. And your people could just be your family. Your people could be your neighbors. Your people could be your friends. Your people could be your team at work. Control the controllable is the overriding biggest thing that you can do during times of adversity. Get center, get even, and control the controllable. I'm going to show you a quick video, okay? You're going to chuckle, you're going to laugh, but let me explain who this is. This is the New Zealand All Blacks, okay? It's a New Zealand rugby club, the most successful pro franchise in any sport anywhere in the world. Forget the old Yankees, forget the Patriots, I almost said the Cubs by accident. That'd have been a bad slip, okay? But you get the idea. These folks blow it all away. The Bulls with 6 rings, the Lakers of the old days, the Celtics. These are the guys. Everything I talk about now are things. I've got a very good friend that spent a month with them. Everything we talk about is what they talk about. These are some of the toughest human beings in the world. And I want to show you this video, and you start to put things in perspective.
Suits stand in front of them and receive the challenge of the haka.
If you can hear me, okay. They have a great book. There's a book called Legacy by James Kerr about the All Blacks, and they talk about controlling the controllable. They talk about being authentic. They talk about, you know, I won't watch this here. They talk about being vulnerable. Talk about honesty, integrity, and vulnerability. It's unbelievable. The reason I show you this is because they struggled hard for about 5 years with culture, the type of people they brought into it, and everything we're talking about today is what they look for in these men right here. Plus, it's pretty, it puts a smile on your face.
Wow.
Like I mentioned before, I'm going to show you stuff that you can relate to, but I want you to feel the emotion as we go through this presentation because that's so big on adversity, right? So this is my little man, EJ. Okay, this is the last Thursday of June. And they have been complaining, Maddie and EJ, about mommy and daddy always talking about wanting to have a date night out. Why don't we have a family date night out? So we said, cool, but you guys got to pick out your clothes, get yourselves dressed. Okay. So with that being said, little man got himself dressed up in that shirt, the tie, the little lid, and he was very proud of himself. And perspective to me is understanding what's important and then also what's not important. Okay. It helps shape your point of view and your attitude about your circumstance. You think of everything we're going through right now. And I think this is something that we need now more than ever. And perspective absolutely is pulled out of what you are paying attention to. And I'm going to talk a little bit about more attention management in a second. Now, the next slide I'm going to show you, I didn't know if I was going to do it or not in the presentation. It was the same thing with my VIP list. I didn't know if I was going to share this, but it's a story and it leads into an incredible lesson from that I've learned about adversity. Okay. So this was the last Thursday in June. 2 days later, this was EJ. Okay. We were at a good friend's house. All my guys from high school, my football guys, hadn't seen each other. We all hadn't been together with our families in 25 years. It was an unbelievable day. And it was almost a perfect day until it wasn't. Okay. This is at the end of the day. And his little buddy, a husky, we had just been there a few weeks earlier. It was his best buddy on the farm. I mean, we were with the horses, with the pigs, with the chickens, with the dogs, the four-wheeler. I mean, everything was great. About 20 minutes before we were set to leave, the husky bit him right in the face, the chest, and the back. Okay. It was bad. It was a really, really bad deal. But amazingly enough, this kid right here taught me something about perspective. I mean, and I've been around a while. I've been through some things in life, right? But you know what? He realized he had his eyesight. He's back to playing sports, okay? He still loves dogs, even strange dogs, much to the angst of his mother, okay? He calls it his scratch, okay? He calls it his scratch. Here's the thing, though. He never sulked, he never complained, and he never pouted. The kid he was stronger than any of us. And to me, he was being the face that we needed as a family. Okay. And that leads right into one of the big things that's a key to success in adversity is don't have a victim mentality. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is Doc Rivers. Okay. Doc Rivers grew up in Maywood, Illinois, went to Proviso East High School. I was blessed to be around some great people growing up. Doc was one of my guys when I was younger as a kid that I loved to watch play. Hard for me, he went to Marquette because back then that was when DePaul was up and coming. My dad started his coaching career at DePaul. They had some of my, guys there. But Doc was unbelievable. And when he was in grade school, okay, his dad was a Chicago police officer. When he was in grade school, his third or fourth grade teacher had all the students get up in front of the class and tell them what he wanted to be, what you wanted to be when you grew up. So Glenn Rivers, he didn't get the name Doc until he went to college, and Majerus gave him the name. He got up and he said, "My name is Glenn Rivers, and I'm going to be an NBA basketball player." Teacher immediately did what most teachers would do: sit down, stop screwing around. And he was kind of a clown, so everybody's laughing and whatever. And he was ticked. And when you hear Doc tell the story, it's unbelievable. So she calls him back up. "My name is Glenn Rivers. I'm going to be an NBA basketball player." "Glenn, sit down." She gives him one more chance. She goes, "Glenn, let's try it again." He goes, "My name is Glenn Rivers, and I'm going to be an NBA basketball player." She sends him home. So can you imagine being Glenn Rivers, and whether it was third or fourth grade, knowing your father, who was a Chicago police, I believe, lieutenant or sergeant, waiting at home for you, and you got to go home and walk in that door, okay? So Glenn walks in, and his dad does what any good father should do, what I would do. He says, forget this, man. We're going back to school. I want to hear her story. So he walks him in. As they're walking back to school, he stops Glenn, and he gets down real close to Glenn's face. He said, Glenn, I'm going to tell you something. We're going to figure this out. And you know what? Your teacher's right, though, because if you don't stop acting the way you're acting, not only won't you be an NBA basketball player, you probably won't be real good at anything. He goes, but no matter what you do, and maybe, Glenn, you will be an NBA basketball player. Who knows? But whatever you do, finish the race. Finish the race. And then Glenn goes on to tell the story after that about how his dad always told him, don't have the victim mentality. Don't come home and pout. Don't come home and whine. Don't come home and complain. So they get back into class. His father talks to the teacher. Teacher calls him up and says, you get one more chance. Go ahead. He gets up, he looks at his dad, big Chicago police officer, looks at the teacher, looks at his buddies that were just getting ready to laugh because they knew exactly what Glenn was going to do. He says, my name's Glenn Rivers, and I'm going to be an NBA basketball player. And that's what he did. All right. Great player, great coach, great leader. But Glenn's been through a lot in his career. When he was in San Antonio, neo-Nazis, white Nazis, they burnt his house to the ground. They burnt his house to the ground because he was married to a white woman. Okay. Never had the victim mentality. When he was the head coach of the LA Clippers, Donald Sterling, the owner, right? The owner was caught on video berating his girlfriend for taking pictures and putting on social media pictures with her and Magic Johnson. Explicitive filled video, audio. The very first thing he said to his teams was, my name is Glenn Rivers. I'm a black man from Maywood, Illinois. And I refuse to be a victim. And that's the first thing. Stop the poor me. Stop the I can't believe this is happening. Stop the what's next. And you got to move on. Okay. Do not have the victim mentality. I love this one. And if any of you don't know this, this is Bethany Hamilton. Okay. And there's a great movie, Soul Surfer. And the way this popped up for me was when this pandemic first hit, I wasn't going to start watching all this stuff that my kids watch on TV movie-wise. So I say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start watching sports movies that are based on true stories. They loved it. You know, and now it's why my daughter has fallen in love with horses. That's a different story. But one of the first movies we watched was Soul Surfer. And Bethany Hamilton was 13 years old. She was on the rise to become a professional surfer. And she was attacked by a shark. Okay. And that's an actual picture on the right-hand side of the surfboard she was riding and her arm after the surgery. Everybody in her world said, slow down. Don't worry about it. You never have to get in the water again. And if you don't, we understand. If you're scared, we understand. And at the age of 13, she figured out that the sooner I get back in the water, the sooner I get back on my surfboard, and the sooner something real good is going to happen to my surfing career. And this shows up all the time in the business world when you talk to these people. When you believe something good is about to happen, not that you're sitting there and waiting. And that's why I put the Stockdale Paradox in there. I'm not sure if all of you have heard that story. One book you have to read in the business world is Good to Great by Jim Collins. He tells a story in there about General Stockdale, who was a prisoner at the Hanoi Hotel. Okay, one of the most infamous prison POW camps ever. And they asked him, they said, you know, General Stockdale, you survived for so long. Who are the ones that didn't make it? He said, the optimist. What do you mean the optimist? No, the optimist. Not the people that are realistic and optimistic, not the optimistic realist or the realistic optimist, or everyone word, but the ones that sat there like, okay, when Christmas comes, I'll be rescued. Didn't happen. When Easter comes, we'll get out of here. It didn't happen. When summer comes, we'll be sent home. It didn't happen, and they died. They didn't work towards anything. They had no purpose, right? They were optimists. They just believed that something. That's not what I'm talking about here. Something as good as about to happen means this. It means you are locked into your process. You're committed to what you're doing, what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way you're supposed to do it, okay? And then you believe something good is about to happen, okay? And then you just keep moving forward. In athletics, it's like the next play. You have a turnover, keep going. Next. What's next?